Okay, guys, we're back at you. Today is celebrity parenting tips, styles, and tactics. Are they really just like us? This is In Your Best Interest. I'm Justin Sisemore. This is Mary Maloney and Andrea Jones. We're going to go through some of this gossip girl mentality, put some family law and some practical spins on it from an entrepreneurial parent, lawyer point of view. So, Mary, go ahead and kick us off.
All right. Well, there's a lot of different celebrities that do some crazy and wacky things, but there are also those that kind of live similar lives to us. Like, we've heard Angelina and Brad Brangelina. I mean, their divorce, I think, finally just got settled. But one of the biggest issues for them was that they had different parenting styles. And that, allegedly, from what I read in the gossip mags, is kind of what led up to their split. So, something you see in real life.
Well, I'm not going to spend the podcast gossiping on what I know about Brad and Angelina. What I will say is that these different circumstances that you've pulled up here and these different tips, like I get these questions a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, when it comes to what I would think on the Brad and Angelina front, like what some of their issues were or are, had so many different, I guess, connotations to it. So it's not just like parenting style, but it may be where we live, where we go to school. We've got, they have a very eclectic and diverse group of kids, boys, girls, different cultures, all that. So, and then, both of them are pretty amazing people as far as acting goes and, all that. And I think that they went through struggles, and some of them they did together and some of them they chose to go apart. But going back to the parenting styles, the question always comes up, like, do we use corporal punishment? What do we do about iPads, screen time, those kind of things? So I really want to dive into the specifics of those and not comment on the individuals that I don't live with, if that makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah. Well, the next one, and Andrea, you were the one that reminded me of this one. There was the college admissions scandal that happened back in 2019. And, these parents were trying to get their kids into schools. And it wasn't just celebrities. It was other people, too, that were paying big bucks to kind of have the rules overlooked so their kids could get into these elite schools. So I think, Andrea, I liked your point is like, what kind of example is that setting for your kids when you do stuff like that?
Yeah, what kind of example are you setting for your kids? I mean, monkey see, monkey do. I can tell them all day long what to do and what not to do. But if I help them to get into a college that they're based on their intelligence or their athletic ability don't belong, what example are you setting for your kids, and what are you setting your kids up for the future if they do things like that? So I don't understand parents like that. We all make mistakes. We're all not perfect. We're not perfect every day. I'm definitely not. But I think my kids, they are anywhere between 20 and 29 now, turn out pretty good because you set an example for your kids. And you have to do that not only by words, but by actions. And when you listen to something like that, I was shaking my head the entire time, and defense reasons they gave up there. If your kid is not good in sports, your kid should not go to college based on an athletic scholarship. And you heard in so many other kids out there who work hard to get there. So I just don't get it.
Yeah, I have a very strong opinion of this too, based on the enabling kind of factor of our society. When I was a kid, I went to this John Newcomb's tennis ranch, and it sounds super cool. It was kind of cool, but I wasn't that great at tennis. I, however, thought I was really great because I had the Agassiz and the glasses and all that stuff, and I just was out there like Johnny Cool Kid. And the reality was, I called my parents crying because I wasn't in the championship division because I wasn't good enough to be in the championship division. And my dad was a pretty strong force, RIP Pops. He was a very strong force, and so he was like, well, my kid's good at tennis. He needs to be in the best, right? And so my dad called up there and literally had me put into this championship group.
And you got your butt kicked.
Oh, not by everybody, by every man, woman, child, older person, all that. And so the good thing about the Army or places back then was that, society would kind of weed you out, right? And, nowadays you got keyboard warriors, bullies, and all that. So when you're actually enabling your kids and you're forcing them into an environment, like you said, Andrea, that they just don't belong in, they can thrive in so many different areas. But you push them into something that you perceive to be really good, and you do it by cheating the system. You're not only enabling and creating bad behavior, you're actually causing bullying. You're causing people to have a perception of that individual, and that will carry with them for a lifetime, right? I mean, I'm confident that those kids are going to have a very tough row to hoe. And I think at the end of the day, if you're really trying to be a good parent, think about all the different opportunities that are out there. Don't just think about one and how you squeeze that square peg into a round hole.
And be honest with them. I always laugh. Remember when American Idol came first on? I was laughing. Because there's so many people out there that thought they can sing. They had no reason being out there. Did your parents ever tell you, like, maybe singing is maybe not your best trait? Maybe play an instrument or something. And people embarrass themselves in front of the whole nation trying to sing, and they can't. Why would I put my kid through something like that? I don't understand.
It's super cool. I've got this middle child, Sutton. She's awesome, and all my kids are awesome. But she's got this very strong opinion that she knows stuff before she knows it. So, like, you take her to a golf lesson one time, and she's like, "Oh, I know how to play golf, or I know how to play tennis, or I know how to sing." So we kind of have this running joke back and forth where she'll start singing, and it's like, "Ah!" And she goes like right up into throat mode, and instead of going, "Oh, good job, honey, way to go," I'm like, "Whoa, what was that?" Right? And it's a funny banter. Like, I'm not trying to take the wind out of her sails and depress her from being able to sing ever, but you can also be realistic with your kids. And I think this is an example of like when you just enable and empower, you take the wind out of their sails, and that's a lifetime problem.
Yes, and using your own connections, your own stuff, they need to learn to have and to earn it. I mean, like, if you don't
resilience.
earn it, yeah.
And I mean, I'm not a parent, but I believe that kids need to be able to be allowed to fail too. Like when I was growing up, I was in a softball league. I wasn't a very good player, and my team wasn't very good, so we didn't get a trophy for losing. Where there's a lot of events and sports now where kids get a trophy just for participating.
Oh yeah, I was in so much trouble. I used to coach kindergarten basketball, and they gave us those little stickers they put on their shirts, and you're supposed to give every kid by the end of the season is supposed to have a sticker. But I can't give somebody in basketball that never makes a basket the offensive player of the day. I can't. And I talked to some kids afterwards and said, I talked to the parents, like, basketball might not be your thing. The cool thing, though, I saw is those kids that played basketball that were fantastic on the field. We moved then in soccer season, and oftentimes it switched. The kids that were not good in basketball were outstanding in soccer. So there was a great lesson for the kids. But like, you can't tell them, like, you're a great basketball player. And why? Why you force your kids into something they're not? And don't, like you said, don't discourage them and say you suck. You don't do that. But you can motivate them and encourage them. And then if they work hard, they might get there. But if not, then maybe pick a different sport for your kid.
Well, and like, to your point, Mary, like when I was in elementary school, my best friend Brandon gave me $20 to buy this trophy when I went to the karate championship, and I got kicked in the face twice, and the guy got disqualified. So I literally got third place, and that's an example of like, my dad was like, "No, dude, we're not going to go buy this trophy, right?" But my best friend was like, "No, man, that's cool. You got this trophy," and you don't really know how to put those things together. Andrea, you know this. When we did the awards last year, like, we were trying to think about ways to make everybody feel good, because in business, you're like, all right, well, somebody did something, and you don't want to leave people out. But it really stirred the pot. Like, one person still gets some awards, and the other people know that they don't necessarily deserve X, Y, and Z, and you're kind of devaluing
the good ones.
The good ones. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what happens here.
Yeah. And then there's no motivation anymore. And if everybody gets a trophy, that mentality, then why would I work hard? Yeah. And there's like the attitude from the kids too. I remember my sons, when they played football, the coach was good in making it a family. But if you work hard as a good football player and then you get playing time based on everybody needs to play, and you lose games because of that, because you want to make sure the senior needs another play because it's his last season, and then you wonder why you didn't make it to the playoffs, that's, in my opinion, not the right way to handle that. I mean, yes, you want to give everybody the chance, but not make it to the point that people... it makes no sense.
Well, I love this next one. Keira Knightley, the actress, she wouldn't allow her daughter to watch Disney movies like Cinderella because she didn't want her daughter to grow up believing that she needed to find a rich man, which, as I was talking earlier, that's exactly how I was raised back in my era. It's like, find somebody to support you, instead of taking care of yourself. So I kind of am interested in that philosophy. I think it's kind of interesting. It's a good thing maybe I never had kids, but...
I am the meat in front of two very awesome women, and I got to be real careful what I say, but I won't anyway. So there's a few things that I like to unpack there, because, when you talk about she doesn't want the rich guy to rescue her. So as a lawyer, I break down the sentence: rich, guy, rescue, her, right? So I'm thinking there about two different sides of my brain, one of which is my traditional views of, I think that it's totally okay to have different roles as husband and wife in a familial setting. And I think that guys gain their confidence from women backing them up in certain decision making, and totally cool. Obviously, I have mostly female employees, like totally cool. And people that I work with directly, Andrea, you, Mary, like I don't have this like org chart or hierarchical structure because it's a man or woman thing. I do think we have different roles. Okay. And I
And
think
we're wired. We're
Yeah.
just. I mean, we're
I
both
agree with
believers.
that.
We're all
Yeah.
believers, and
Yeah.
we are wired a different way. And men want to be the provider and protector. So why not let them be that? And I think nowadays many marriages fail because no man wants to come home to another man. So if you act as a man when you come home, it's just done. Then you have to have a woman. I mean, if I always say to my daughters, like, if you want a man to be this way, then guess what? You got to marry a woman because it's men are wired a certain way, and that's very unpopular to say that.
yeah.
Very unpopular. But it's true. We are wired. We're made different. We're wired different. God created us in a different way, and there's a reason. So,
Yeah, there's definitely some truth to the genetic makeup and whatnot, and I don't want to get off on that tangent. But I will say that when it comes to specifically like the idea of the way my mom was brought up, for example, I've had long talks with her about this. Like, she was taught not to go to college. My mom went to college and law school, was a single mom, paralegal. My wife is wildly successful business person. So when I talk to females or males that are not the breadwinner, right, and they're trying to figure out how to go forward, I'm like, look, I'm a half full dude. You're not gonna get me into that victim mentality that you can't do it, right? So I think that the notion that you can't watch Disney movies, if it's rooted in this concept of like, hey, do you see how here she was cleaning houses and she couldn't get outside of her circumstance, and now this white prince comes in and saves her and all that stuff. I can see how you can correlate that, but I could also make another 1,000 arguments. Like, what about the fact that she was born in a time where literally she probably couldn't leave that circumstance? And so there's, if you really just kind of
those
take
movies were
things
made
at
years ago.
sometimes context and face value, you're not going to get so caught up in my kids can never watch a Disney movie because Disney is all bad or lawyers
Disney
are all bad.
isn't all bad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because it had, like you said, Cinderella was made decades ago.
Decades
So,
ago. Women couldn't even have
yeah.
a bank account back then. If you got divorced
Yeah.
back then, I think as a woman you didn't get anything. So there was different times. But it doesn't have to be looked at, in my opinion, as the prince saves you. What about falling in love and having that feeling and being swooped off your feet? That is the white horse and riding into the sunset or sunrise is a different.
Right.
Doesn't have to be
Pretty
like
Woman's
really.
still like
Yeah. So,
back in the day was like, that was still kind of a cool concept that somebody came from other circumstance and they just, all of a sudden meet somebody that takes them out of their game. And what I think is important equally is to go, maybe she changed him too,
correct.
right?
Yeah, and she
And,
did in that movie.
yeah.
That's a good movie. So Kelly Clarkson forbids her children from joining social media until age 18. Now, her girls are like 11, 12, 13 or something like that. But they cannot use social media. And she is now divorced from her husband. And of course, her kids are like, well, what if dad lets me?
Oh, man.
So there's that. And he currently, according to this article, which I'm sure was totally factual, said that he currently is not allowing them either. But that could change, So what do you guys think about social media use?
And I've seen like really comprehensive parenting plans that go through like social media, You got to remember, you got to have somebody enforce that. So you come into court and you've got 1,000 different ideas about how we're supposed to parent, and one gets off. And social media is not a small one, by the way. I love so many aspects of saying no social media to your kids because of the society that we live in and what our kids are going to be doing. I probably, like many parents, are torn between you want them to know how to navigate these waters, but I don't want my daughter standing around making fish lips all day long and not seeing the world. So, there's also the cyberbullying, the hidden accounts, the different ways the parents do it, whether they have different phones, whether the parents provide the phones, who pays for it, I mean, I hear this stuff all day long. So what I would say that the biggest challenge we run into is if you can't get on a united front about that across the board, try to get to a point where you can reach some common ground. So maybe it's not 18, maybe it's 16, maybe it's 15, maybe it's screen time. You know, and if your child is really having a lot of headache and heartache and emotional issues, it's oftentimes because the parents are so at odds with each other, and this is just a byproduct. Like this is actually could be their escape outlet. This might be some people's only chance to really communicate with people. You know, so you have to start thinking, in my mind, about the whole thing that's going on.
And be a parent. I think the most important thing is be a parent, meaning when they are on social media. I just had this with the son of a friend who believes everything he sees on social media and makes those outrageous statements. This is true, and when you are married, you should be like, how old are you, dude? 13? Like, how do you know anything about marriage? So, and I think social media, I'm not against it. My kids use social media, but it takes a lot as a parent to be involved with the kids and explain, like whether it's limited time, whether it's explaining what's going on. They don't understand the concept of AI, that you get fed the same information. If you watch a certain thing, you get the same information again. Then you feel it's true because you saw 3 TikTok videos about the same thing. So I think it is a part of our society. I agree. And you don't want them to go blindly. I have another friend. The kids are not allowed to do social media either. The oldest one is about to go to college. And when your kids have no idea how to navigate that. Well, guess what's going to happen when she goes to college? She's not prepared. She's going to have a phone. She's going to use social media, and she's never done it. So there's so many dangers in not ever having any access. So I think in my opinion, it's a balance, and the parents need to be involved.
And it's like Eminem says, of course they're going to know what intercourse is by the time they hit the 4th grade. They got the Discovery Channel, don't they? So like, let's remember for a second that
true.
These kids are like, their buddies have it. So I think prohibitions without really understanding why you're using it and what you're using it for. I mean, and also if you completely prohibit, you know, we now know that these kids now they're 18 and they get their count and they post something that will haunt them for the rest of their lives because they don't understand it.
Correct.
And so there's dangers on both sides. And I don't pretend to step in Kelly Clarkson's mind and pretend that she's all knowing and that the other side is all wrong or maybe right because he agrees with her. I definitely think we all know. And you look at Australia, they ban it until a certain age. And I love that. Like, take it out of the parents' hands.
And even in schools. I mean,
know, if we all decide that that's
they don't even pay attention in school anymore. I mean, when my kids were in high school, they were not allowed to use the phone. And when they're freshmen, and I think when they're freshmen, it was not allowed. And then afterwards, all of a sudden, it was allowed. And they're on their phone all day long under the table and not even paying attention to the teacher anymore because they need to see whatever streaks and stuff. And I need to answer now because if I don't answer now, all that stuff is so crazy. When you think about it, so that you gotta be careful and teach your kids how to use it.
Look at the Paul brothers. Like, if you would have said you're not allowed to use social media at all, you never, like, those guys got there and they built the entire industry. They built
a lot of people don't know who the Paul brothers are. So
there's Jake Paul and the other Paul brother. I'm not here.
Jake the boxer dude.
Yeah. So they both are fighters, and they're both using creative content, and they're doing a great job of it. A lot of the stuff we get, is emulated what they're already doing, and they know how to, the Joe Rogans of the world, they know exactly how to interview people. And so you're soaking up years of knowledge and wisdom, based on them actually using it. So I think there's a lot of positives that come from it, but I see a ton of negatives. And my biggest point and final point on that issue is that, if 55% of people in our area get a divorce, which is terrible, but that's pretty close to the reality. And if you're in separate households and you've got a divided outlook on this, I love, places like Australia go, hey, what parent really says, I want my kid to be a social media star by they're 12 or 13 years old? I don't know a whole lot. And if you take it out of their hands, hey, look, it's the law. I'm sorry, man. That's just until they change it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And then as you, the parent, you want to video your kid on a cooking show. Y'all can be together and doing it. That to me makes a lot of sense, but who am I?
So, I mean, there are parents that do exploit their children on social media, though, to get money. So that's another thing, and I would imagine that we probably mostly agree on that. Chrissy Teigen and John Legend, those guys, they are very careful about what. Oh yeah, they are very careful about what they post on social media about their kids because they don't want to embarrass their kids, and they don't want their kids like years later to come back and see that. So they're very careful about that. Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's
well, I
probably a good
mean, you
idea.
think about these celebrities, they have publicists that make millions of dollars for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, parent, be your kid's publicist. Like that, I mean, I don't know anybody that would disagree with being it. Now, hovering specifically when you've got a child that is communicating, like, I get a lot of parents that take their phones away and all that stuff, so they can't communicate what's actually going wrong in their lives in
Mm-hmm.
any format but through some formats because they're physically removed from them. So I don't want to take away kids' ability to, voice concerns. And, they're not always going to jump up to a counselor and they're not always going to feel empowered and strong to do things. Now, I don't like the word empowered either because kids should not be empowered to change the org chart of
Correct.
Jesus, parents, husband and wife, and then kids. And they
Right.
need to be like down here. And you need to keep that org chart.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that firmly.
Yep. So the next celebrity on our list is Sophie Turner. She's been in the Game of Thrones. She was married to Joe Jonas, and she was talking about how, as a busy mom, an actress, and everything, that she suffered from a lot of mom guilt, but she really had to kind of talk herself out of that. She's busy. She's a working mom, and I don't know.
Andrea, come on, what's that
Yeah,
like?
I mean, Andrea's a working mom. You probably,
Yeah, so
and you're a
there's-
single mom.
Mom guilt is real. Mom guilt is real because
Mhm.
if you are a mom and you have a career, there's always a balance. So that is a mom
Mhm.
guilt. The mom guilt should not turn into your kids run the show. Definitely not. But I think every mom goes through that when you have a job, when you have a career. Your wife probably same way. You can't be there at all times. But I always firmly believe too, as a female, you are first a woman, then a wife, and then a mother. And if that org chart is also broken, you're going to have problems in your marriage. And if your kids run the show, you have a problem. So that's same thing. The kids, you're not going to give your kids attention 100% every day because there's other things going on. And kids learn that too. They have to learn that. My kids, we had a rule at the house. If I'm doing something, even when they were little, you have to knock before you come into my room. First of all, when the doors close, you have to knock. You can't just walk in. If they walked in, go back out, wait, and then knock and come in. This is not your room, it's my room. And when I was doing something, that was the rule. And there's a bonus sticking out or you're bleeding, Mama's busy. And yeah, that was my rule. Because they're
they're still alive.
mom. Yeah, 50,000.
Doing well, by the way.
And they're
Top
all
of their
doing well.
class
Right?
and-
But
Yeah.
there have to be certain rules. The mom guilt never goes away, but there has to be a balance. And then it's the quality time with the kids. If I work and I come home, then I can spend quality times and go on dates with my kids and stuff. So they can make up. Oftentimes it's not the quantity, it's the quality. And if I focus on my kids and spend time with them, and now they're all grown. We just had dinner together yesterday, and it's like the coolest thing to have your grown kids at the table who actually want to spend time with you and who learn from you as a female. And your wife, your kids, your daughter's going to be the same way, to see that you can, as a female, be a mother and still be successful. I think that's an important message to send to the kids, that when we talked about earlier about the princess, you can be successful, you can be married, you can be happy in your marriage, you can be successful business professional and still be a mom. You're gonna have to handle the guilt. Totally agree with that, but it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't project for stay-at-home moms versus working moms. In our family, it works out great for both of us to work. We have a lot of commonality in entrepreneurship, and our kids get to do very cool stuff as a result of us both, earning.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't a money thing, if it was just this is what we need to do, we really don't have much struggle in those blurred lines. But my wife constantly, I mean, especially nowadays, there's like 35 activities a week at the school, and it's like, I don't even know how we're supposed to pay for this school if we do all this stuff.
And you can't be at every event, but you have to be at the events that are important to them. I mean, yeah, that's one thing that was always a rule for me. I have to be there, and I have to adjust my work schedule to be at a port. If they had a track meet, I was there. I was at every football game. I was at every basketball game, and business stuff had to wait because I'm still a mother, and the business stuff can come afterwards. So that, I think, is the most important thing, to be there. And I might not be at every event and every little whatever, Valentine's party at your school and things. I might not be at everything, but I'm going to be there for the big events. And I never missed anything.
Did you feel like there was like social pressure from like other moms?
Yes.
Like if they were doing that
Yes,
stuff?
why were you not there?
Why weren't you there?
Okay, well, again, that happens. But again, it's you raise your kids a certain way. Like you said, there's not stay-home moms. I was stay-home mom too for a while on purpose, and that was okay. Well, not my thing, but it was okay, and I did that. So And it's cool that you have stay-at-home moms that can be at those parties and
Yeah.
pick up for others, right? And then there's nothing wrong with either way, but the mom guilt is there no matter what. It's there.
Okay, I love Kate Hudson says that I don't believe in negotiating with children, and that's something she's always been very strict about. So it's very difficult to stick to, but
I like Kate Hudson. I didn't even know this about really any of these people, but I really like. I like this notion of negotiation with children. I do like giving kids choices and opportunity to do things, but when you set parameters, I love like the strong judges, the strong coaches, the people that just like push you, not too hard, but you knew that they cared, they had your best interests at heart. And so I think that setting strong, expectations and setting boundaries is awesome. And then when you set those, like if they make sense, if they're normal, and don't let your kid push. I think what she's saying is you're not going to push me off my game, because my game is to get you where you need to be the next level, and then you start making the decisions when you're a little bit older. That's all.
And it's also to protect them, right? I mean, if they go to school, yes, you can wear. You have a choice what you wear. You wear the green dress or the blue dress or the red dress. I don't care which dress you wear, but you're not going to wear your Halloween outfit to school today.
Yeah,
right. That's just
mean,
because you throw a fit and you want to wear that, whatever, in September because we just bought it. You're not going to wear that to school. You're going to wear. You have choices, and I agree, make choices, but within parameters, and you're not going to run the show.
Yeah, I mean, we all have the kids that come over to our house too. Like some of them slam doors, and some of them have pink hair. And they're coming and wearing just stuff that doesn't fit them, and it's because they decided to wake up that day. And I know that when you're in, at least from my clients' experiences, when they are in severed households or two separate households, there's so much pressure, right? Like, I don't want to do this because my kid's not going to like this. And then they're going to run to daddy or run to mommy. That's, I think, what happens a lot from my lens.
right.
And I love what Kate Hudson says here, because it's like, don't get into the negotiation. I tell people all the time, you want that 15-year-old that says that you're the B and she's going to get these shoes, or else she's going to call dad and run over to his house. I'm like, take this kid for a while. That child will most likely navigate back.
Yeah, they're going to navigate back, yeah.
Right. And the other thing that she said is that there are rules and privileges, and you have to earn those privileges.
Agreed, yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. Okay, Viola Davis. I love her. And this quote's from like a few years back when her daughter was younger, but she didn't buy her daughter designer clothes, even though she could afford them, because she said her number one fear is that her daughter is going to become entitled. And, she said her daughter has a home, a roof over her head. She said she never had a home. And so she shopped at Target, and if the kids were lucky, she'd go to Nordstrom Rack. So
I totally agree with that. My kids all the time, you have to earn the stuff. I mean, designer clothes, that's out the question for me anyway, but you have to earn your things. So if everything blown up sugar, you're behind, you never feel like you have to earn anything. And there's certain things that you have to earn, and you're not just going to get it. My older kids always say like, oh, you're so lenient with the boys and easy on the boys. Well, they're boys. That's, first of all, as a mama, that's a little different in a different situation now. But yeah, I always had my kids, you just don't get it just because you want it. You have to earn it. And certain things don't need to be there at an early age. You need to get there. You don't need to have the brand new Mercedes when you turn 16.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Maybe start. Because my kids had it at school. When they started driving, the area we live in, there's so many kids. Ferraris and BMWs and brand new for their 16th birthday. I don't believe in that. Like, you can have the Humpty, like we all had, that crazy car that was like, yeah, we call it Humpty in Germany. the car that nearly falls apart, and you learn how to drive, and then you can save, and then I'm going to help you to buy the car, but then we're going to go that route. You don't need the brand new car when you start driving. I don't believe in that.
Yeah, I think, so when it comes to designer stuff, right, and I'm not going to sit here and say that, and nor would you say that your kids never had like the coolest pair of Nikes or whatever. So I think designers, can kind of take some different connotations, but also to remember the context of like where they're going. And so, like you said, if you're going to the Met Gala with your mom, you're not going to, wear certain brands, right? And so I think it's okay to explain like, hey, this is not an everyday thing, but this is a very important event.
Correct.
And if you've got means, that's totally okay to do that.
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to cars and using things and getting kids attached to things, and I think that's what she was saying, is don't get attached to labels and brands and all this stuff until you earn it and appreciate it. I think that's really the message that most people want to resonate with. And what I see a lot, and I'd lived this in my own life, was like, when my dad and mom were separated and all that stuff, there's a lot of like, hey, let me buy you this. And I would get like a new Gerbeau shirt or whatever back in the day. and then it was a dirt bike, and then it was like, and I get that a lot, like from clients. Well,
was
he's
gonna
just
say-
buying their affection.
Yeah.
And so I think if you just really have the conversation with your kids, like, this is really cool, but why do you, I think this is cool, and these people think it's cool. Why do you think this isn't cool or not cool? I want you to think about the labeling and use it as an educational opportunity,
Yeah, and so Madonna, and this was like a long time ago when her daughter was younger, but she said that she made sure that her kids kept their rooms tidy or they would have to pay the consequences for it. So, for example, her daughter would just drop all her clothes on the floor, so she'd go in there, put them in a garbage bag, and she'd have to earn her clothes back and wear the same outfit to school every day.
Man, I mean, okay.
I want to do that with my husband. 'Cause that's
Fine, sort of.
I know his mother had to do that.
Yeah, but again, so here's the thing: if you never teach your, mine are grown. If you never teach, and I was at fault too. That's like the working part and stuff. If you don't teach them how to do certain things, they're never gonna learn them because there's a time period. I mean, they leave the house hopefully at the age of 18. If you always have a maid cleaning the house, if you always have somebody picking up after you, how when you go to college, for example, not that you have to go to college, but if you go to college, for example, how in the world do you expect your kid then living with somebody else, keeping their room clean? Is not an option. So there are certain things. My sons, I can't cook. Then learn how to cook. You were never interested. I offered you many times how to make eggs. Now they're in college, and Mom, I don't know. Learn it. So there's a part to that. I totally agree here. They need to basic skills. How do you clean a house? How do you wash your clothes? Things like that. The kids need to learn, and they need to learn them while they're still at home. And and again, same thing. I don't know whether it's a very harsh consequence, but
No, I'm just like I'm thinking about this now, and I'm like, wait a minute, you do that with their toys. Like, I tell them, like, if your stuff is in the living room, I'm gonna bag it all up and it's going straight to charity.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what's the difference with clothes? I guess not much,
the
other
same
than
thing.
same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you're thinking about a little girl, like, she just had a temper tantrum one day, and she's like getting ripped on by her friends because she's wearing the same outfit for a month, and she doesn't know how to. I mean,
There's a balance there, but I think
there's
there's
a
certain
balance.
things, certain skills kids need to learn while they're at
for
home.
sure.
And if you always clean up after them, they're never going to learn
Yep.
how to do it.
The next one I really love too. It's Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade. They don't play around when it comes to manners. Unleashing an undisciplined, ill-mannered child on the world, that's not fair. My parents didn't play around with that, so it's not
Totally
really
agree.
something that's up for debate.
Totally agree. 100% agree.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one thing. My one, if I can ever get a compliment bigger than this, I'd be surprised. But most people will tell you they're around my kids, and they're all very different. I got a Spitfire. I've got another one that's a hybrid. I got the Rule Follower at the top. So I'm not like, well, you're just so blessed to have these kids. I've seen parents that have all three kids, all three great or all three bad, and not like onesie, twosies, or the one-offs. So I think that if you are bad at my house, I will deal with it. If you're bad in somebody else's house,
wow.
they get both. And I don't know what their treatment's going to be, but you got carte blanche. That's the way we grew up, and maybe that's wrong, but I don't think so. If I trust somebody enough to put my kid with them at their house, and my kid acts up, or my wife and our kid acts up, then by all means, whatever's the rule in your house, you do it. And I tell them that straight out the gate. I don't have to that much, but the yes or no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, it's business.
Mm-hmm.
You're setting the trend when they get to 16, 17 years. You don't think that people around your sphere of influence aren't watching these kids and looking to whether they want to deal with them and work with them in the future. It's their audition.
I
So
agree. Mine the same way. And the greatest compliment you can get, which is funny sometimes too, like they're so well behaved and they're so organized, and I was like, that does not happen.
that doesn't happen at our house.
But they have to have the space at home to be themselves. But when they
Yeah.
go someplace, I never had a complaint ever about my kids acting up like a fool somewhere else. They know how to behave, and they better know how. Like you said, they better know how to behave when I'm not around. They
No,
better.
and listen, guys, I mean, I can affirmatively speak on Andrea's behalf with her kids, and none of us grew up normal, so don't think we're some silver spoon crap that goes through your head, and we have all this money and everything's fixed. We got the same problems.
Sure.
But I will absolutely, as a testament to your character as an independent woman and a mother and all that, say that I've met these kids and they are dialed.
Thank you.
I mean, from a responsibility standpoint, from an accomplishment, and they're all dialed in different ways. One of them's a top of her class in law school. The other one, kids are playing football. The other one's a social media star. So, don't think that there's this perfect way that we're up here saying that is
No, and they're all
any way
different,
the
right?
case.
And that's, I think that's, as a parent, you have to, like you said, you have 3 different. Mine are all different. Even the identical twins are different. They're different, and you have to cater to their differences. You can't use the same parenting style. You can't use the same things. But if you raise them right, they know how to. So thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I did a good job. My greatest achievement, I think, are my kids.
So the final one, I'm going to just read you this quote and see how you guys decipher it. And this is from Jennifer Garner. She was the star of Alias. Remember that show? And she was in a lot of rom-coms and stuff. So she said, be liberal with your yeses and save your nos. And that was something she learned from her mom, which is anytime you can say yes, say yes. Be very liberal with your yeses and save your nos. And the final thing is that closing your mouth is worth a million no's. I'm not quite sure if I understand what
I do.
she's saying there. Do you? Okay,
I
please.
think. And first of all, I love this, and I didn't really understand the first part of that sentence, be liberal with your yeses, but I'm a half full guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what she's trying to say is give your kids a sense of confidence by saying yes as much as you can. You know, we came from some of us came from like military parents and all that where no, you can't. And the kids like, they're just always going to say no matter what, right? And then when it's closing your mouth is worth a million no's. My mom used to say to me things like, you really hurt me. And I was like, ugh. That's where the tears flow.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what she's saying is like, when I don't give you a yes, I usually do. And if I'm adamant about a no, I don't have to say it. I can close my mouth and you'll just know it's not right for you because I've given you that backdrop.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And again, the kids are different. When I told Aisha I'm disappointed, she would do whatever it takes. Tell the boys I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
Like, okay, be disappointed. They did not care.
I guess it's different.
It's different, right? But I totally agree with that. As much as you can encourage them in their stuff, yes. And then if it's a no, it is a no. And then what the earlier point, and then there's no negotiation. If I say it's no, it's no. We don't need to discuss this now for 3 hours. Why you need whatever you want? No, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, any other thoughts on that? Are celebrities just like us?
Yes,
I guess so.
Parenting, yeah.
Kind of sounds like it. So, on that note, if you live in Texas and you would like to contact the Sisemore Law Firm, that's Justin's law firm, you can reach the firm at 817-336-4444 or visit lawyerdfw.com. Thanks so much for listening in and have a great day.